Hey everyone, welcome back to Collecting Nolan. This is Russ, and today's another Sensational Set Sunday. And can you believe it? This is the 52nd episode for Sensational Set Sunday. So I've been doing this for over a year now, or at least have about a year's worth of content for Sensational Set Sunday, which I think is just crazy because I don't see a point where I'm going to run out of cards anytime soon here. So we're going to keep it going. But in order to celebrate Sensational Set Sunday, I decided to do another food issue collection, and simply because I started Sensational Set Sunday, the first episode was on Hostess cards, which is a food issue, of course. So I figured let's celebrate by doing another food issue, and with that, I decided to do a pretty big one, which is the Kellogg's Nolan Ryan cards. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so Kellogg's cards. Kellogg's didn't start making cards until 1970, but Nolan wasn't into cards until 1973. And with the 1973 set, there were 54 cards in that set. And Nolan is number 16. And with this set, the cards are characterized by the stars on the border here. I think there's 9 of them on each side, and then it has this awesome bright red background, and then this like shield border with the photo of the player in it, and of course the player's name in the banner below it, and what position he played, of course. So 1973 was this card's about 2¼ inches by 3½ inches, but it's also the only year that Kellogg's didn't do the 3D effect, in which they would put like a plastic coating on the front of the card, which made it have this quote unquote lenticular type pattern, and it would look more 3D. But for some reason or another, and I think it's because they used a different producer of these cards during this year, that they didn't have that going on for 1973. So 1973 is one of the smaller sets, tied with 1974 as being the smallest, with just 54 cards. On the back here, it has a nice photo of Nolan, and it gives his stats. And I think these cards also too have just some great facts on the back. So on the back of this card, it talks about his 329 strikeouts in 1972, as well as his 9 shutouts that he pitched, which is crazy. And one of them, he actually struck out 16 against the Boston Red Sox for a shutout during the 1972 season. But it also has this great quote at the end of the paragraph. It's a pretty big paragraph too. They put a lot of information on here. But it says there's no doubt the move to Anaheim appears to have given Nolan the confidence and maturity that could make him one of the game's all-time greatest pitchers. So, it's kind of like a Nostradamus effect here. Kellogg's knew what they were talking about back in 1973 when they made this card. But also that back, it's got, so here's the big long blurb of information to give you. It's got Nolan's picture up there. It's got the Angels logo. It has, of course, his biographical stats like his height and weight, which I think is funny because Nolan's weight fluctuates quite a bit amongst these cards. Like here it has him as 180 pounds, and but also, so this company that produced these cards this year were the Visual Panagraphics people, but in the other years they used the Visual Panagraphics with this other company called Show Graphics or something like that. It's spelled like it's spelled with an XO. Showgraph Company. It's XOGRAPH, and I think that's the company that put on the lenticular plastic type material on the front. But these cards here, you can get raw copies of this card for between like $20 and $102.50 from what I saw that was being sold. But PSA 10s can sell pretty high for this. There's one that sold in 2021 for $461. That was a little bit too hefty for me, so I decided to pay $52 for my PSA 9, which I'm pretty happy with. You know, it's a nice looking card. It's pretty well centered. It's got great coloring to it. Really can't go wrong with that. So picked that one up. So all in all, like in general, like the Kellogg's cards are pretty affordable if you're looking for just either raw cards or, you know, even PSA 9s are pretty affordable. The PSA 10s, of course, with any other card is where you start paying quite a price for them. But if you're not into PSA 10s that much, or you don't care, kind of like how I don't care, then go for it. You know, they're pretty cheap. All right, so the next year was 1974. So first card of Nolan's was 1973. This is the 1974. And this is one of my favorite cards of the set. And to be honest, I feel like it's like one of the more harder to get ones, at least in a good condition card, at least from my experiences. It took me a while to find this card. So 1974, the size changed a little bit. It got a little smaller than the previous year. So this one's 2 1/8 inches by 3.25 inches. Again, there's 54 cards in this set, and Nolan is number 8. And again, has a nice photo of Nolan, his biographical stats, you know, the Angels logo, Major League Baseball, all of his stats. Going the whole way back to 1966. And then again, it gives this big, long paragraph. And on the back, it talks about basically the legendary 1973 season, where he broke Koufax's single-season strikeout record of 382 by striking out 383, and about his 2 no-hitters that he pitched. But this one also has a great kind of Nostradamus-like quote on the back as the last line. It says, "If he stays healthy, no pitching record is beyond Ryan's reach." So they weren't kidding about that. Little would they know that this guy who pitched, just 2 no-hitters in one season and fanned 383 people in one season, he would go on to have 5,714 strikeouts and 7 no-hitters. And again, never winning a Cy Young award, despite 1973 being the year in which he should have won it. So again, that's my opinion, but I think there's a lot of people who agree with me. Anyway, so, all right. So with this one, I don't know if you can see it on the front here, but they went back to the lenticular front. I can't really see it on here, but the background stadium is a little blurry. So if you were a kid in the 70s, and if you look at this now, it's kind of has a 3D effect. I don't think the video does the card justice. But if you look at it, it does put Nolan a little bit in the forefront for you if you're looking at it. But just a sweet card in general. These are, again, like I said, kind of harder to find. Although I did find a couple, I saw raw cards go for between $1.25 and $82. So, that $1.25 card, you have to be ready to deal with some plastic cracking and things like that if you're looking to spend just a little bit on the card. And if that doesn't bother you, then these are still awesome cards to pick up. PSA 10 copy of this card sold on eBay for $400 this month. So again, just like the previous year, it gets up there for PSA 10. I was able to pick this one up off a buddy of mine in a PSA 7. I mean, I thought it was great. The cracking does bother me. Like if there's just a little bit, it wouldn't bother me too much. But if I can get it without cracking, that's what I would prefer. And so he had one that did not have cracking, and so I was able to pick it up for I think I paid $55 for it. So that's the 1974. All right, so moving on here to 1975. 1975 was the 3rd year for Nolan straight here. So this card kind of similar. Actually, it's very similar in design, and in size wise, it is the same. But even design wise, the borders are similar. There's a little bit more stars in the 1974 than the 1975. But in general, this is a sweet card too, and I feel like it's very hard to pick up as well, in great condition for a reasonable price. Mine here has a little cracking in the bottom that you can barely see. I don't think you can even see it on the video here, but there's just a slight crack there. But I was happy to pick this up. Again, for 1975, there's 57 cards in this set, so there's 3 more cards than the previous year. Nolan is number 26. Here's the back. So instead of using a photo up here, it kind of uses like a hand-drawn rendition of the photo on the front of his face. So, oh yeah, I wanted to talk about Nolan's weight. Nolan's fluctuating weight. So in 1973, he was listed as 180 pounds. 74, he was listed as 180 pounds. And this year, he was also listed as 180 pounds. So we'll see. We'll see if his weight fluctuates. I think it does, because I remember looking at these and being like, wow, what's he doing? But I also like the facsimile autograph on the front, which the previous years did offer that as well. So there's the 74, and the 73 also had the facsimile. It's a little bit harder to see on this one, but it's going across his chest there. This one's a little bit more noticeable. And on the back of this one, it basically says that these cards, it talks about how he pitched 333 innings, which is crazy. And in those 333 innings, he struck out 367 batters. And in the 3 years since he joined the Angels, he struck out 1,079 batters in 3 years. That's crazy. It also talks about how he threw his third no-hitter against the Twins in 1974, and that he also threw a game in which he struck out 19, which at that point was a single game record, but that's been broken a number of times since then, by Kerry Wood and others. But just a cool card on the back there, and if you're paying attention, like if you're really into like how this stuff was produced, like down here it has the geograph people, which was on the 74 as well, but is not on the 73. So, how much do these cost? Raw, you can pick these up between $2.75 and $50.05. I've seen them. So again, with those lower priced ones, you'd have to expect a lot of, a bit of cracking, I would assume. PSA 10 sales through the roof on this card. Through the roof. There was one that sold for $800 recently. So PSA 10s harder to acquire if money is an issue for people, like it is for me, and I think everybody else. I paid $23.59 for this version. I thought the minimum cracking down here was a good enough, I guess, sacrifice, or I didn't mind it. So, great card there, one of my favorites, but this one can definitely get pricey. Also wanted to say how these were distributed. So many of these sets, the cards were distributed in cereal boxes, or you can get it through a mail-in offer. Like if you collected enough tops to the cereal boxes, you can mail them in. They were usually like in clear white wrappers, in the cereal, so they weren't being subjected directly to the cereal flakes or whatever. So they probably came in pretty good shape. They weren't like the other types of food issue cards where they were just put in chip bags and stuff like that, and being subjected to all the oil and stuff from that kind of thing. So these were in nice wrappers. So let's move on. So 1976, no Nolan Kellogg's cards in 1976. Same with 1977, no Kellogg's cards of Nolan Ryan in 1977. Then 78, Nolan makes a comeback in 1978, and here's the 1978 Kellogg's Nolan Ryan with him in that pose, and a very prominent facsimile signature on the front there. But this is a pretty cool, it's got Kellogg's in the banner with the 3D, superstars label up top with then Ryan and pitcher and the bomb in the banner. Again, has the lenticular plastic coating on the front. And on the back, instead of having a picture of Nolan, it's got a picture of Tony the Tiger in the middle there, which is kind of cool because it's an older rendition of Tony the Tiger, not from how I remember Tony when I was a kid. But again, the biographical information. So I guess between 1975 and 1978, Nolan put on 15 pounds, probably of pure muscle, since the Angels were the first team that used, weight training and all that kind of stuff. He put on 15 pounds of pure solid muscle and ballooned up to 195 pounds. But I just thought that was kind of funny. Who knows? It could be true. I have no idea. But it's just kind of interesting how it went up that much. So then on the back of this one's card number 57. And again, these are the same size. No, actually, they're relatively smaller. They're a little bit smaller than the 1975. This is only a 2 1/8 inches by 3.25 inches. There's 57 cards in this set. And here's the back again. And on the back of this one, it talks about him throwing his fourth no-hitter to Ty Koufax. And then him also having the most 300 strikeout seasons out of anybody. And then several of his cards make a big deal out of this as to having more strikeouts than innings pitched, which I guess that isn't necessarily an easy thing to do, which it probably isn't. I can only assume that it's not, because you're averaging more than a strikeout an inning. That's actually pretty incredible. So, but several of his cards in the Kellogg's collection do talk about that. He's being one of the few pitchers to have more strikeouts than innings. So that's kind of cool. So, these were also distributed in cereal boxes in white wrapper. How much do these go for? So raw wise, I saw sales go for between $4.25 and $22.50. As far as PSA 10s, there haven't been any recent sales of a PSA 10 for this card that I could find. There's one that sold in 2023 for $540. So again, these get pricey once they get up there. As far as my card, I paid $47.68 for this card. And I just picked it up recently because I didn't have it. And I wanted to make sure that I had all or most of the cards in order to do the show. And that's also when I picked this one up even more recently than this one, because I just wanted to complete the set before I did the show. So, but yeah, again, with the lenticular plastic front, you got to be careful with the cracking. I did not see any significant cracking on this guy, so I was very happy about that. It's just a beautiful card. So I bought that. Okay. So 1979, no Nolans for 1979. I guess he didn't make the cut. But then Nolan makes a comeback in 1980. With the 3D superstars again. Nolan Ryan as a pitcher. Kellogg's with the facsimile signature. And again, this one gets even smaller than the previous 1978 one. This one's 1 7/8 by 3.25 inches. So it keeps getting thinner instead of, becomes more narrow instead of wide, This one, mine is a little off center, which it is what it is. It bothers me a little bit, but I just like having this card in the collection. I think it's a great card. 1980 was a 60 card set. Nolan was number 20. And on the back here, you can see they kind of ditched the photo again. Instead they have Raisin Bran, which is kind of sweet. A Raisin Bran logo up there with Nolan Ryan and his biographical information, and then the Astros symbol. So Nolan for the Angels here, but they have the Astros symbol in the back here because on the back they also talk about him being traded to the Astros, but they also talk about how he was the strikeout leader for the 4th year in a row with 223, and how he's the fourth. He's 4th on the list in all-time strikeouts. So it's basically monitoring his climb and documenting his climb to the top here as far as being in the 80s. So pretty cool card here. These were also distributed individually in Kellogg cereal boxes. So how much do these go for? So raw wise, between $7 and $27. I was able to see PSA 10. There was a PSA 10 that sold for $248 this year, so not as crazy as some of the others, but again, it's pretty high. And of course, with the lenticular front with the lesser price cards, you're going to expect some cracking. Let's see. For mine, I paid $3.13 for this card. So this card doesn't have any cracking on it, which is incredible. I think it would probably grade pretty high, minus the fact that it's got, the centering is off. But I'm not going to grade anytime soon, or maybe ever, because I don't feel the need to really. So that's just how I feel about it, but we'll see. We'll see where it takes me. But yeah, so the 1980 Kellogg's is that. All right. So next, 1981, another Nolan year. This is a pretty cool design. Gotta love this one. 1981. So 81, again, they got wider this time, so this went back to kind of like the usual design, 2.25 inches by 3.5 inches. It's also a 66 card set, so one of the bigger ones. But this one features, has Kellogg's and then the 3D Superstars again, but it has this like awesome yellow border with it, with the stars on the sides, and then of course the facsimile autograph, and then but it's got Nolan's rainbow uniform there, so it just makes it awesome. I love this card. It's like a color match because the yellow goes with the yellow kind of, and the lettering goes with Nolan's uniform too. So kind of love that fact. Again, it has the lenticular coating on it. Nolan is number 6. Here's the back. So this one talks about him striking out 3,000th. Again, this 3,000th K against Cesar Geronimo. And he basically finished the 1980 season 9 strikeouts behind Bob Gibson for 3rd place. So, and then it talks about him being instrumental in Astros' first ever division title in 1980. So that's pretty cool. So, I just love that card. It's such a sweet card. So how much does this go for? So raw wise, I've seen these between $5.50 and $38. PSA 10, no recent sales of a PSA 10 of this. I popped up. The last one that came up was in 2021 for $86 on Fanatics Collect. I think that would probably be significantly higher today. Probably in the 200s like the previous year, I would imagine. But, cool card. How much did I pay? I paid $6.25 for this one. And again, no cracking. It's got nice sharp corners. It's even got kind of this rough cut up here off the panel, which I wanted to say, I forgot to mention that the 1973, so the very first one. So sorry to rewind and go back, but this one, you can actually find this in a panel with a Ray Fosse and Jim Palmer, and so it's like a straight 3-card panel, like side by side cards. Nolan's on one end, Ray Fosse's on the other end, and in the middle is Jim Palmer. So that is a possible find. I have never seen that pop up. I would imagine that it's pretty rare to find and probably very expensive whenever you do find it. So, moving on to 1982. So 1982, again, this is I don't know. For some reason or another, you either hate them or love the rainbow uniforms. I love them. I think they're awesome. I think when I was a kid, I didn't like them, but as an adult, I love them. I think they're awesome looking. So again, they shrank it again this year, to be a little bit thinner. It's a 64 card set, and Nolan is number 20 on it, and it features, of course, the blue border with the facsimile autograph. Nolan in his pitching pose there. There's the back. It's number 20. Is that right? I don't think that's right. I think it's number 11. Number 11. It's number 11. But anyway, Nolan's weight is now at 200 pounds. So he's now a 200-pound person. But it has Kellogg's on the back here with the Astros. I think that's really cool. And again, it hasn't. All of these, I just think, have these great write-ups on the side or on the bottom. On this one, it talks about his 5th no-hitter, breaking Sandy Koufax's record. It also talks about how he led the league with a 1.69 ERA in 1981, even though that was a strike-shortened season. Nolan led the way with a 1.69 ERA. I also think is maybe not ironic, but just kind of cool, is that Nolan pitched his 5th no-hitter against the LA Dodgers to break Koufax's record of 4. And of course, we all know that Koufax played for the Dodgers. So I just thought that was interesting. So going through resources here, this card, they said that you couldn't get this in a cereal box, and I don't know if that's true or not. They said instead you had to mail in rebates, like box tops, cereal box tops, to get the card. Because it says as usual, which I don't think, that is not the usual way. Like, there were several years that offered box redemptions or whatever, like where you can mail in the rebates and get the card. But for most of the years, unless I'm completely mistaken, which I read quite a bit about this stuff, is that these were packaged in cereal boxes and wrappers, and then also some years were available for mail-in rebates. So with this one, I'm not 100% sure. All right, so let's see for this one. So raw wise, 1982 Kellogg's is between I made a mistake. So I'm sorry, guys. So let's go back and rewind a little bit. So 1981. How much did these go for? These were between 99 cents and $17. For PSA 10, there haven't been any recent sales of this card. This one sold for $92 off of Fanatics Collect in February of 2021. And then how much did I pay for this one? I paid $2.92 for this card. And there's no there's no cracking, and it's in pretty good shape. You can even see some of the cutting where they cut it from the panel. So that's that. So then with this one, couldn't read my, this one goes for between $5.50 and $38, 1982. For a PSA 10, again, no recent sales. This one sold for $86 off of Fanatics Collect in June of 2021. So there's that. And then how much did I pay for this one? I paid $6.25 for this guy. And again, this one's centered real nice. I didn't see any significant cracking on this card or cracking in general. So for me, it marked all the boxes as being a good card. And for that kind of money, perfect. All right, so 1983. 1983 was actually the final year for Kellogg's producing baseball cards in general, and Nolan did make the cut for 1983. So here's this 1983 Kellogg's, and this one's kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit more laid back as far as design, like no stars, no different color borders, just a white border. Kellogg's up at the top. They still retain the facsimile auto, even though it's kind of small on the front there. But it's got Nolan in a nice pose, and I don't like these blue tops. I don't recall ever seeing those in play. I don't know if that was a spring training uniform, or did they use those within the season? I'm not 100% sure. I don't know everything about, actually I don't know anything about the early 80s Astros. So if anyone knows about that, that's kind of a unique jersey there. So, and then here's the back here. So this one had this set had 60 cards in it, and Nolan was number 31, and on the back basically talks about Nolan's 5th no-hitter and him striking out 300 batters, more than anybody else, and then him also striking out more than 200 or more in 6 consecutive years. So that's pretty awesome. On the back here you can see that they don't have a picture like some of the other years, but they do have the Astros logo, the Kellogg's up here, and this whole long just tidbits of information within there that I just talked about, and of course all of his highlights there. So 1973, how much were these going for? So raw, I saw some sell for 79 cents. And it went up to about $10 for raw cards. And of course, as I've said before, that the cheaper they are, the more likely that they are to have the cracks in the plastic. For PSA 10s, I couldn't find any recent PSA 10s, but one sold in April of 2021 for $137.50. For this card, I paid $41.55 for. So, this is a 9. I mean, there's no cracking. It's a very nice looking card. So I thought it was definitely worth that much money. But so that ends the cards. So 1983 was the last of the cards. But I kind of just want to end it on this one because they stopped making cards in 1983, but then I remember picking this guy up. I remember getting this poster in a cereal box when I was a kid, and this isn't the one I had from my childhood. I don't know exactly what happened to that one, but I found this one on eBay. It's a Kellogg's. You see down here it says Kellogg's, but I guess they started making posters, and so just to close out the Kellogg's collection here, I wanted to show this picture of the Ryan Express with the awesome steam-powered freight train in the background there, and of course Nolan and his high leg kick. That's just really cool to me. So that's it for that. So, guys, that ends this Sensational Set Sunday on number 52. So that was a pretty awesome run. A whole year's worth of content. And, I don't see it ending anytime soon. I think we have plenty of more cars to look at. So I'm just going to keep going. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you tune into the next one. And thank you, as always, for watching, whatever I have. I greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next one. Thanks. Bye.